Howdy, Jacob here. Today I'm going to be going over something a little bit different than what I usually do. In fact, it's quite a bit different. So instead of doing an individual stock analysis, I'm showing my retirement calculator that if you have access to Excel, you can use and finagle and do as you please with. I'm going to have another video later with a more advanced model for individuals that want to retire before age 59 and a half, to where you will need a non-tax advantage account, just a regular brokerage that you can use for funds until you turn to 59 and a half and don't get penalized on digging into those funds. But first, let's go over the most basic retirement calculator that, again, anyone can create if you have Excel. I hope you do, and you change some of the inputs. You make it work for you. Me personally, I like to make things as simple as possible, and so I try to have as little inputs as possible. And the formula might look a bit wonky, but I'll walk through it quickly so that it's well understood. And so the first things first are that these three green cells, you don't have to change unless you have an inkling that it'll be different. So I have interest earned while working, and so this is the rate of return you get in your working years. And as you can see, it's 8% higher. 8% is higher than the next assumption, which is interest earned when retired. And that's because I presume that people will have more conservative asset allocation when they're retired than through their earning years, which would require a less return. And then the last one is 3% inflation on spend. And so you'll see what I mean by that in the next video. But for now, the I just wanted to go through a general example and show the formula for how you can incorporate this into your own Excel spreadsheet. So let's go over an example. So here we have a 30-year-old who currently has 100,000 in investments, and they want to retire at the age of 60. So at the age of 60, you can pull out from your retirement funds with no penalty. And so he's saying, I'm just going to work until um, I can dig into my 401k IRA, no biggie, um, and use those funds for my retirement. And so here I have, again, 8% rate of return while I'm working for 30 years, 6% thereafter, inflation of 3%. And then I'm assuming that I have 30 years till retirement because I'm 30 years old now, and I'm investing 25,000 a year. That'll, allocated some fashion, maybe 6,000 into my IRA, 19,000 in my 401k, whatever it may be, just 25,000 a year to my retirement fund, and my base is 100,000 already because I'm 30 years old, and I have 100,000 in investment. So the first formula is a mixture of taking interest earned on the principal of 100,000 and then calculating the annuity of $25,000 a year for the next 30 years, since you have 30 years until your retirement. And so if you look at the formula here, we have your principal amount, so the amount you have already at the age of 30, is multiplied by 1.08, the interest you earn while you're still working, to the power of 30, because it's 2053, the year 2053 minus the year 2023. And then you add on to that essentially an annuity of 25,000 a year at 8% for the next 30 years. And that's just a simple 1 plus I quantity to the power of n minus 1 divided by I. That's just the annuity formula. And then afterwards, this formula you can copy and paste it all the way for as long as you wish to go. And this formula is just taking into consideration how much you spend that year. And so if we walk through this, it's how much money you have at the end of the prior year, and then you subtract out um, the spend per year in retirement uh, weighted on the inflation rate. And so, what that basically means, if we're looking at this right now, this 54,152 is not 54,152 in 2054. It's 54,152 times inflation of 1.03 to the power of how whatever year it is. So it's today's version of how much money that will be in that time period. So you can see here, I'm taking again previous year, subtracting out what is the equivalent of that spend in that year, and then I'm just getting interest on the rest of it. So I'm assuming you take all that money out at the beginning of the year, and then whatever's remaining will be getting that 6% return roughly. Well, in this case, in this example, it's exactly 6%, and then you copy it over, and so you can see that the steps I have here are to update the yellow cells, which you've already done, and then to calculate how much I can use in retirement. I need to go to the cell that is the age that I'm 110. It's kind of an arbitrary number, but I'm basically saying that I want to be conservative in all of anything retirement. You want to be conservative, and so this is saying I will have money. I will have. I will be able to spend this amount in cell C5 for as long as I'm alive, and I'm assuming I'm going to be alive until 110. So you might think 110 is an insanely high number, but you can see that if you look at the history of aging population, people live way longer than when we did. When people live way longer now than when they did 20, 30, 50, 100 years ago. And so I'm just assuming, to be conservative, an age of 110. Again, I hope you incorporate this into your model or your Excel and come up with your own figures. But for me, to be conservative, I'm saying at the age of 110, I want that number to be zero, like I ran out of all my money. And then I want to goal seek how much spend I can use per year. And so if I'm 30, I was born in 1993. So I'm going to go all the way to 2103, and I'm going to run a what if analysis goal seek. I want to set that figure that's being calculated to zero by changing how much I can spend per year. You'll see that it runs its analysis. And this means that if I'm 30 years old, I want to retire at 60, and I currently have 100,000 in my retirement accounts, investment accounts, and everything all in. If I contribute 25,000 a year for the next 30 years, then throughout all of my retirement, I can spend today's amount of $57,000. So again, that's not saying I'm spending 57,000 a year every year. That's saying 57,000 in today's money. So just a quick example, if we want to look at 2054, that's saying 57,000 times 1.03 to the power of that. That means in 2054, I get to spend $142,561. In 2055, it's 146,000. So again, it's today's amount of $57,000. All right, so the next calculator we'll be going over will be a bit more complicated, but I hope everyone is able to add this to their Excel spreadsheet and create their own retirement calculator. Or if you enjoy this one, I hope that um, it helps with figuring out when you can retire, how much you need to invest in, um, and then I think that's those are the two biggest things to get from here is how much you need to invest to get to a certain number that makes you comfortable, or you put in all your assumptions here and then go seek how much you'll be able to have throughout your retirement. Again, in today's terms, because 50,000 20 years from now means nothing compared to now. So thank you, and I hope everyone enjoyed this video that was a bit different.